Morning. Welcome everybody. Let's see, this is Tuesday morning, September 29th. Now my phone's showing me live, but no one has, oh there we go, there's a person coming in. Like yesterday, it just happens immediately. Boom, 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 boom. All these names start appearing. This morning, there's a little bit of a delay. I think it's a Monday thing. I think people are just like, Mondays, they're starting their week. They're right doing what they want to do. And, you know, this is my theory based upon the last 2 seconds of thought. There we go. There's Steve Hauser. Good morning. Barbara Richardson. Mark and Deanne, fine. Good morning to you. Stacy Riggle, hey, welcome this morning all the way from Wyoming. Suzanne, Daryl and Suzanne, Jan Atkins, good morning to you. Mike and Joe Stromberg, welcome everybody. So grateful that you are joining me this morning. Dana Kreshock, Letitia Sexton. Good morning. Hey, there's my sister-in-law, Kim. Good morning. Luke, good morning to you. There's my mom. Good morning. Despina, welcome this morning. Morning, everybody. Wendy Chadwick. Ashley Cato, good morning. Good morning to Maverick or Kinsley, if either of those are up this morning. Welcome, everybody. And Jim and Kathy Fuente, Carmen Lego, good morning. Janisa, welcome everybody. Well, it's good to see everybody's name. I always feel encouraged by that. Stephanie Ellis, good morning. So, and there's one more, Bob and Claudia Coates, good morning to you all. I have to tell you about yesterday. Obviously, if you saw my live stream yesterday, I was up in Kirkwood. I had particularly last week and a half really had been weighty with regard to just emotional things, emotionally draining things. A lot of stuff going on my plate, and it really had wore me down. And I needed to take a bit of a extended time to just reflect and seek some solitude. So I went up. I left early before the sun came up to get up to the high country. So the only place I knew where I would have signal up there around Carson Pass area would be Kirkwood. So I went up there and I did my devotion up there, as you know. What you didn't know is what happened after that. So after I did my devotion, I went backed off down the mountain down to the Silver Lake area. To kind of escape the wind. You saw yesterday how windy it was up there at the pass. And so I parked my pickup and got out, and I did, I was by myself for, a good 3 hours, and I thought, I need to get back to my pickup. I'm going to head back down the hill, and I got a lot to do for Monday at the office, so I'm going to get back down I'll be back in the office by noon. Well, it seems like God had other plans for me, which I'm grateful for. And this is really kind of the point of today. God knows exactly what we need. Because when I got back to my pickup, I had been using my phone for as a GPS device, and it was tracking my whereabouts and using it as have topo maps and stuff loaded on my phone. And so it was pretty depleted of power. And when I got back to my pickup, I reached in my pocket and pulled out my key to get in my pickup, and lo and behold, I look at the key that's in my hand, and the key that I put in my pocket was actually the key to our F-150, not my 89 Toyota pickup. I thought, oh, Mark, what did you just do? Why did you put that key in your pocket? I couldn't figure it out. But anyway, that's what I had done. So I began to look around my pickup and say, all right, how am I to get back in here? And there's just no signal, right, at Silver Lake. And thinking about where's a tow truck going to come from? It's going to come from, down in Pioneer or Jackson, and or from Woodford's on the other side of the pass. I didn't know where, so but I got to get to a place where I can make a phone call, call AAA. So I just start walking out toward the highway. There was a little Wi-Fi box that Volcano had put up by the dam at Silver Lake. I thought maybe that works and I'll be able to get some sort of call out or text or something. And as I'm walking out, a pickup comes by real slowly, the driver's side window down. I turned and I said hello, and he greeted me back, warmly. And so I said, "Hey, do you have a cabin from around? Do you live up here?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I've got a cabin right down the road." And so I explained my predicament, and I said I'm looking to try to get a signal to make a phone call to AAA to get me back into my pickup. And he goes, "Well, I'll just take you to Kirkwood." So in his pickup, I jumped, and he drove me back over to Kirkwood. We had a great time talking. He's an avid hunter and fisherman. He has boys in Idaho that both got their bucks already in archery season, so we were swapping stories, and it was really great. His name's Gene. And I thought, wow, God, thank you. You've supplied someone who's really friendly, able to go the distance, get to me to Kirkwoods. Anyway, I get on to AAA, and everything's automated. You don't talk to a person anymore. And it's taking all my information, and it says, well, we've located you on your phone. We see where you're at. Is this where you're actually at? I said, yeah, I'm talking on the phone, So I'm answering the questions. All of a sudden, it says, okay, we'll have a tow truck to you in an hour. And click, it's gone. I'm like, well, I never got to talk to anybody. It's like I didn't get to communicate that, well, where I'm at right now is not where my pickup is. I'm still miles away from my pickup. So I talked to the driver, to Gene. I said, hey, Gene, leave me up here. I'm like, okay. I need to wait for this tow truck. So he reluctantly, he left me, offered me some fruit and stuff, and good guy. So he takes off, and I wait, and I wait, and I wait. And the tow truck never showed. So in rolls a CHP officer. His name's Trevor. And he says, hey, are you doing okay? I've seen you here for the last, however long. And I said, yeah, I'm waiting on a tow truck. And my phone has like 3% left. So I'm thinking, I got to figure out my strategy here of maximizing that 3% of how I'm going to get out of here. And Trevor and I sat there and talked for the better part of the next 40 minutes. And that ended up being such a rich conversation. And because, hey, I said, how long have you been in the Jackson office? And he said, the last 10 years. And so I said, this is going to sound awkward, but I'm going to ask you, you probably knew my brother-in-law, Brad. And for those of you who are watching, and I don't like to bring all this stuff up, but there are a few opportunities that I get to talk about my brother and sister-in-law and the deep loss that we have experienced with them, largely because of the nature of their passing. And so most people only have a connection with kind of their horrific end and the tragic end of their lives. And there are a few people that I can talk to that actually knew them for who they were, apart from their very sad end. And so I talked with Trevor there, and it was so good, so life-giving to me. At times I was holding back tears, just. And I apologize about, hey, I'm sorry. I don't mean to make you talk about this stuff. It's just that every time I see a CHP officer, I want to talk to him, and especially a local one, because I just want to. It's one of the only times I really feel connected again to Brad, whom I miss, Brad and Mary, obviously. And this might feel mixed to you. You might have mixed emotions about all that, but for those of us who are very close to Brad and Mary, we've known them their whole lives. We don't only remember them for how they passed, and so that was really life-giving to me. And in the end, Trevor said the same. He says, we don't talk about it a lot either. It just has a lot of painful aspects of it, as you can imagine, for even the men and women at the CHP office to talk about. And so it ended up being a really good thing for him as well to talk about. So after waiting a bunch of time there and talking, he said, "Hey, let me just check on your tow truck driver." He gets on the radio, and I'm simultaneously looking at my phone and kind of powering it back up because I had powered it down to save battery. And all of a sudden I got this series of texts saying, "Tow truck's not going to show up. It's delayed. It'll get there till 6:30 at night." I'm like, "What?" Simultaneously he's finding out too that the tow truck's not coming. So he goes, "Hey, would you mind if I gave it a shot?" And I'm like, "Yeah, if you're game, I'm in." So I jumped in the car with Trevor. We drove back down to Silver Lake. We rooted through the toolbox on my pickup until I found some really light gauge wire. We doubled it and tripled it, and he wove it into kind of a more heavy gauge wire. And for better part of a half an hour, he worked at my lock and ultimately got my door open. And I was able to get back home. And I just want to comment on this because I just had felt so emotionally depleted that morning. That's how my day started, and it had been as for a good week and a half, just feeling very emotionally depleted. And I just felt like God used that opportunity, both my solitude time, the unfortunate event of my keys being locked in my pickup, but to meet Gene, who was so kind. We had a good conversation, and then to meet Trevor, having such a great and meaningful talk with him, and the kindness of both of them. I get back down to the office, and that afternoon I watched a message, and the message tied so perfectly to my day that God knows what we need. The message actually was out of Matthew chapter 6, the Sermon on the Mount, where we're at, and we'll get there in our own devotion here. But to fast forward to say that, it had, in the context of worry, why worry about tomorrow? God knows what you need. He knows He needs all He knows that you need all of these things that you tend to worry about. But we serve a God who is sovereign over all, who clothes the grass of the field with beauty. He feeds the birds. How much more does He love you? And He's going to take care of you. And yesterday was such a great example of that. God sees, God knows, and oftentimes He'll put you in a position through even the inconvenience of being locked out of my pickup to deliver exactly what I needed yesterday, and so grateful for that. I so needed that, and I just want to share that story with you as a point of encouragement. If you are experiencing being emotionally low or discouraged in some way or whatever, understand that God sees. God is the God of the universe. He feeds the deer on the top of the mountains. I mean, He's caring for His creation. How much more would He care for us, whom He has a special relationship with? And sometimes time passes when you feel like you haven't had any of those divine appointments, or you haven't. It's like, well, God, where are you? I really could use some help here. God will reveal Himself and His ability to provide in His good time. That doesn't change that who He is, the kind of God He is, and the fact that you're waiting, right? That I was waiting for a week and a half before I had this divine appointment. It just happened to be the exact time that a place I needed to be, in a circumstance I needed to be in, and God provided a means of just a great life-giving time. And so I loved that. I was so encouraged by that. And so I want to encourage you. I know we didn't get into the Word a lot today. I just want to give you a kind of a testimony of God doing something unique, just because He loves me, He loves us. That's how He works. And so I hope that you're encouraged today. Don't give up on thinking God isn't seeing your circumstance or doesn't hear your prayers. He does. He loves us deeply, and He wants to give you the life-giving resources to continue to walk this life of faith. And so be blessed today, and I'm praying for you and hope that you enjoy God's presence today, and I'll see you again tomorrow morning.